What's going on, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we're back. I just wanted to do a quick recap of the Johnny Fisher Dave Allen fight from yesterday. Okay, this was one of those fights where Dave Allen, been watching him for a long time, and you guys know the history of Dave Allen. Pretty talented guy, just never really won any of the big fights. Most of the big fights, most of the times he stepped up, just really didn't get the big wins. He did get a couple good wins. Nick Webb, what's his name, Lucas Brown. There's certain wins where there was fights going into the fight because of past losses. People didn't really expect him to win, and he did pull off the win. But then this was like kind of one of those fights, because he lost to Frazier Clark last year, and people kind of thought like, all right, Dave Allen, people kind of forgot about him. And then you go into this fight with Johnny Fisher, who's, one of the top prospects up in the heavyweight division, right? And fight is starting out with Johnny Fisher. He's doing his thing in the earlier rounds. He's definitely outworking Dave, and Dave drops him in the fifth. And then I felt that he was winning the later rounds. And it was a split decision, 10-round fight, and Johnny Fisher picked up the win. All right. Now, I was live yesterday during this. I did the Usyk Tyson Fury card, and most of you guys know my reaction. To be fair, and before, I'm trying to show as much love as I can before I get to the hate. um, Johnny Fisher showed a tremendous amount of heart. After he got hurt in the fifth round, I don't think his legs was ever really completely underneath him, you know? And I felt like any big shot that Dave Allen landed in the fight after the fifth round, or from the fifth round on, it definitely affected him. It almost looked like he was gonna tip over. All right, so he showed a tremendous amount of heart getting up in the fifth. I mean, he actually went down twice in the fifth, but they called one of them a slip. Like, he kind of got thrown down, even though he was getting hit with shots. He went down from being thrown down. So the second knockdown, the fifth didn't get counted as a knockdown. So I did go back and watch it because I wanted to be fair, and I wanted to see the fight again, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just being outraged because you just getting caught up in a moment, And I rewatched the fight this morning. I got up this morning, I rewatched it, and my stance haven't changed. I thought, was it a close fight? It was a close fight as far as like scoring. I think Johnny Fisher definitely won the first three. I think the first two rounds were clear rounds for Johnny Fisher, right? He's doing a better work. He's landing the combinations. He's controlling distance with his jab. Like, he's just doing a better work. First two rounds, he's blitzing Dave Allen, right? And as we're watching it was like, okay, he's doing well, but Dave is still coming forward. Like, how long is Johnny going to be able to maintain the pace that he's fighting right now? And then the third round comes, and I felt like Johnny Fisher is still clearly winning, but I feel like he's starting to slow down a little bit because Dave is still coming forward. And then in the fourth round, which I think is the first questionable round, is where Dave started to throw bombs, and he landed two of the most significant punches in the round. Um, I think this is the first round that was debatable. I think there's two rounds that's debatable. It's the fourth and the 10th. And I think in the fourth round, I felt like, okay, Dave Allen is starting to land some bombs, but Johnny Fisher is still outworking him. Now, when we say outwork, that means like he's throwing more punches. You know what I mean? He's just doing more, But is it effective? Is he landing? A lot of the punches are not landing. Dave is coming in forward with his high guard. A lot of the shots are touching his gloves. A lot of them are not really getting through the guard, except for the body shots. Okay. But Dave's still coming forward. So when the fifth round comes, Dave lands a big shot, right? I think he lands like I think a right hook, I think somewhere in the inside or whatever. And he drops them, right? Throws a flurry, drops them. Fisher gets back up on unsteady legs. He starts to get clobbered again by Dave, and he goes down to the end. But again, he was kind of thrown down. All right, so it didn't count. And I felt like every round after that, it was like the same thing. Like even though he didn't get knocked down, he kept getting hit with bombs, you know. And again, he's doing more work as far as throwing more punches, but nothing's effective. Like he's lost his power. Like nothing is really affecting Dave at all. Davis is walking through whatever he's throwing, and it's like that. And I think the fifth round is clear for Dave. The sixth round is clear. The seventh, the eighth, the ninth. I think the only other round that is kind of debatable is the 10th round. I think the fourth and the 10th. The fourth I gave to Fisher. The 10th I gave to Dave. I just feel like even if you were to give Johnny the fourth and the 10th, Dave still clearly won the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth. Plus he scored a knockdown. It's just no way you can give it to Johnny. You know what I mean? It does no way. I mean, those are clear rounds that he scored. I don't think any other round is even close. Because again, Dave can hurt him at any time. Anytime he lands a shot. And when we say, and I'm listening to the commentary and they say that he's doing more work, I'm like, yeah, he's throwing more punches. But Davis is walking forward. Davis talking to him. Davis is just doing whatever he wants, you know? And it's funny because I started watching the post fight interviews and I know that they are friends going into the fight, but I didn't know that they were like they were that cool. And it made me feel like, yo, it made me feel even more like, yo, Dave. And I was saying this during the fight. You got to go for it. Don't let this go to the judges. If you really want this win, you got to go for it. And when I rewatch it again, it's like, I think there's moments that he can really stop this guy. But I think he's not really pulling the trigger. Like he's doing enough to hurt him, but he's not following up with anything. You know what I mean? Like, did he really want to stop this guy? I have to wonder. But regardless, I still think he did enough to win for sure. For sure. There's no way that Johnny Fisher actually won that fight. Dave, at the very least, secured 5 rounds. At the very least. With a knockdown. But who got beat up in the fight? Johnny Fisher did. And I said this too on a live. I was like, you know, this is one of those fights where Johnny took a lot of damage in this fight. You know, and then their post-fight interview that they did, or I mean not post-fight, but I think they did an interview together this morning. And they're sitting there and they're talking about a potential rematch, right? And Dave says something, you know, not for nothing, you know, if they offer the fight, you know, I get it. It's a lot for me, you know, it definitely would be a good fight for me to take, but I wouldn't advise for Johnny, who's sitting right next to him, to take this fight again because like he's much younger and these are the fights that take a lot out of you. And this is what I was saying on the live, like this is 10 rounds of him taking hard shots. You know, from the fifth on, he was just taking hard shots and his legs was never underneath him. Again, he showed a lot of heart, but you know, I think Dave somewhat pulled back on his punches, and just because he didn't really want to hurt this guy. I think it was clear that Dave was a level above him, and I think Dave still did enough to win. But if Dave really wanted to win, he needed to do what he needed to do, and he clearly cares for this guy, and he let it go to the judges, which is I think is a crucial mistake, you know, because Dave's been around for a long time. He's taken a lot of losses over the years. You know, he reminds me of like a Gabe Rosado type of dude, you know, a lower level Derek Chisora, you know, guys that tend to have good performances from time to time against top guys, but loses a lot, you know, in these little fights like this. And I think this is one of the ones where he can clearly win. He could have clearly knocked this guy out, because Johnny just didn't have anything for him. So yes, I thought it was a robbery because I don't think it's any way possible. I know people are gonna come with the angle. Well, the fight was close. The fight was close in the sense that it's a 10 round fight, and Johnny probably won 4 rounds, maybe even five. But it was clear who the winner was here. Clear who the winner, the actual winner was. And there's no possible way you could give Johnny the win. The win, a win here was not, that was no win. That was no win. It was clearly one guy being much more effective than the other guy. You know what I mean? And I personally think it was 6 rounds to four. I personally think that the rounds that Dave won were clearer rounds to give him because he's just a more effective puncher. You know, you're throwing a lot of punches again, throwing a lot of punches and them getting blocked. And you know, I think the best punches that Fincher was landing was really the body shots. But if the guy's still coming forward and when he hits you back, you're like about to tip over. This guy's clearly more the more effective puncher. He's coming forward. You can't do nothing you can do can stop him from coming forward. I've seen Dave Allen hurt. I've seen him take steps back because he was clearly being affected by punches. This is not one of those fights. And I know they're trying to protect Johnny's O. And a lot of these guys that are undefeated for some time, they get these kind of gift wins. And I think this is exactly what happened here. He got a gift win against a guy that's a seasoned fighter that is a little past his prime and stuff. I get that, but it was definitely a robbery to me because when I say robbery, there's no way you can give Johnny Fisher the win. It's ridiculous. I mean, even a draw is far fetched. You can't get a draw because he got knocked down in the fight. He got knocked down in the fight. So in a 10 round fight, how you gonna make it a draw? You know, um, again, 10th round is either a 10-10 round for me or or like a 10-9 for Dave Allen, and then any other round from the 5th to the 10th, between the 5th and 10th, it's Dave Allen round. I think fourth was debatable round. Fourth was probably the most debatable round because that's when things started to change. But I don't mind giving that to Fisher because he did more work and he was still pretty good and sharp there. But once he got knocked down, he was no longer sharp. And he needs to work on that shoulder roll. The shoulder roll that wasn't really working. He wasn't rolling the punches that Philly show. I don't really know what he was doing, especially while he was hurt and he was still trying to fight out of that Philly shell stance. Dave was just hitting him with hooks while he was leaning to his right, and he's getting hit and affected by these punches. I'm like, you trying to put your hands up, man. Like that stance is just not really working for you. You seem to get hit with everything Dave is throwing, and it's hurting you pretty bad every time. Um, Dave Allen won the fight. All right. But I get it. He doesn't really want a rematch. I'm not expecting a rematch. I think those are those fights where if you could come out as the winner, all right, if you could come out as the winner, you don't really want to go back when you're trying to move up in the world. But at the same time, it's not a good look moving forward because it's like what happens the next time he steps up, because this is clearly, a step up fight for Johnny Fisher. Alan Babbage was his last fight, and Alan Babbage was never really a good, he's a smaller heavyweight, he's a bridgerweight type of guy, and he's never really been that good neither, so it was a good knockout win in the first round, but who they're gonna put him in there? They can't put him in there with Moses Atima. These guys are gonna destroy him. You know, Again, a lot of heart, but we got to keep it real here. Like he's not. He has to dramatically improve, and I'm sure getting hit that much by Allen, and Allen can hit, and Dave Allen's pretty durable, but there's levels to this, and Dave Allen has lost most of his bigger fights, and he's got stopped in a few. So with that being said, this was the time for Johnny to shine, and there's points in the fight that I felt like Dave still with even with the beating, I still felt like Dave was still carrying the fight. All right, so that's my honest opinion about it. Um, I think Dave at least did enough to warrant him to get another decent shot at some point. Um, he's still having performances like this that keeps him relevant at the heavyweight division because he is good. He is good. Um, I always question his motivation though, and even in his interviews, you could tell like he clearly doubts himself. But I think a well fit, well motivated Dave Allen. I'm not saying he was championship level, but I think he could have definitely been in some top contender fights, some other ones. You know what I mean? Um, and there's a few fights in there. Like I thought he was gonna be David Price when they fought. Um, he lost to Luis Ortiz, but some of these fights I think he could have won. I mean, he lost to Tony Oka. I think if they were to fight today, he'll probably stop Tony Oka. But there's a few fights in there that a few losses he has, which I thought in his best day he could have won. And this Johnny Fisher fight is now one of them as well. All right, so let me know what you think in your comments. Please subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, share the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.